Well, good morning, everyone. We'll get started. It is 10 o'clock, July 31st. Wow. Where has the summer gone? We are fastly
Good
approaching the
morning.
start of classes and
Good
everything.
morning.
Hey, I'm in a good.
We'll get started, and we've got a great thing to talk about, adult learner re-enrollment. We're excited to have the Ithaca S&R group with us today. So lots of great discussion I think we're going to have in this area. Hopefully, I will get my slides to move forward. There we go. All right. So if you would, please put your name and institution out in the chat. That way we can know who you are, where you're from, what your position is, and how you're involved with this group. We continue to have more and more people jump in here. So this is just a great way to share who we are and what we're doing and maybe make some additional connections. I'm Dallas Kratzer. I'm going to be hosting the event today, as I have for our three previous ones. We've got some great participation. Looking forward to the discussion. Now, we've covered a lot of turf. This is our fourth installation. And last time we met, we talked about the student journey mapping and how we can engage adult learners in this area. I want to take just a minute and see if there is anyone that's had a chance to use anything that we talked about last time. And if you have, either drop something in the chat or raise your hand, turn your mic on, whatever the case may be. And we'll go from there. Love to hear if you've done anything in the way of journey mapping. Now, I'm administrator, teacher, so I can wait for a long time. Peggy, Peg, I see you came on. So anything to say about journey mapping? Okay, all right. Well, let's move on. And if something comes up, think about it when we go through the lightning round at the end. So our spotlight today is going to be on removing barriers. We will focus on that in just a moment. We've got a great team with us. And then after we get done with our spotlight, we're going to have some breakout discussions. Then we'll talk about some upcoming conferences. And the lightning round is where we're going to ask you to share your thoughts, what's going on your campus, and what you think we need to know, or it gives you an opportunity to say, hey, here's something I would like to know more about. And we'll see what we can do to get it on the schedule for our September meeting, which will be the 4th of September. So with that, I want to just briefly introduce our person. Joanna's going to be going through the presentation. She is with Ithaca S&R. And wow, they've got a great thing. Liz is here also. So lots to share. I'm going to let her do her introduction for the team that's going to be here. So thank you so much, Joanna, for being here with us. And I'm going to stop sharing so that
I know she's confused about something, but I don't know what.
What's that? Oh, I'm sorry, Maggie, you were there. You go. Joanna?
Hi, thanks, Dallas. Thank you so much. And good morning, everyone. Really great to see you all here. We're all very excited to have this conversation. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and then this is going to be a team effort. So Jonathan is actually going to start us off introducing the topic, the presentation, and we'll move on from there. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Joanna. So hi, good morning. I'm with Ithaca S&R. We're here today going to discuss a project that we've been working on with CBE and institutions in Kentucky around challenges and opportunities for adult learner re-enrollment. Particularly, we're going to be focusing on students who have some college but no credential. You'll hear a number of terms today. They're not exactly interchangeable, they're kind of synonyms. So adult learner, some college, no credentials, some college, no credit. If you hear some of us saying various ones, we're all roughly talking about the same thing. So let's go on to the next slide, please. Here is our team. And in case you're not familiar, Ithaca S&R is a strategy and research nonprofit organization. with a focus on expanding access to higher education and strengthening student success. In the interest of time, we've got quite a full agenda today. I'm not going to go through the detailed introductions of everyone, but we hear from us all today. Let's go on to the next slide, please. So about this project, to give you the high level overview, we had basically 4 components to it. First off, collecting data on administrative holds and past due balances. This enables us to figure out, what some of the challenges are that adult learners are encountering. Next is exploring policy and practice opportunities to support adult learners who want to re-enroll. And then 3 is considering implementations that could work in the context of Kentucky for supporting those students. And then 4 is sharing findings with stakeholders. This event today is, of course, one such of those activities. Next slide, please. Let's talk about the agenda, just to give you a sense of where this presentation will be going. The next thing we're going to move into is defining, who are adult learners with some college, no credential. From there, we'll move on to some new federal regulations that limit transcript withholding, which is going to go up a lot. And then challenges solutions for students and staff. And then finally, the discussion where we'll cover, how would solutions work at your various institutions. Next slide, please. So, who are adult learners with some college, no credential? In broad strokes, there's a lot of different criteria. It's not, necessarily one homogeneous group, but you can see here on the screen. I'm not going to run through these one by one. I know that you all can see the slides, but it's a big group. And our research has primarily focused on the ones with some college, no degree, but a lot of the solutions that we're going to discuss today could also be applied to just, a broader group of adult learners who would like to re-enroll. Let's go to the next slide. Giving you the
How are
broad intro
you?
of who are the students we're talking
How
about.
are you?
Good.
Great. Hi, Nikki. Talking about the scope of the project. First off, nationally, big picture, there's almost 37 million individuals who have stopped out. There's another term that you'll hear, who stopped out with some college, no credential. That's according to National Student Clearinghouse data. And then according to some research from Ithaca S&R, again, looking nationally, 6.6 million individuals could not access their transcripts due to an unpaid balance, what we've started calling stranded credits. So that's a subset of that population that specifically, can't get their transcripts and therefore can't transfer, can't re-enroll, have difficulty, possibly with finding employment related to not having that transcript. So, next slide, please. So that's your scope nationally. Let's talk about it in the context of Kentucky. You've got over 500,000 individuals who have stopped out with some college, no credential. And then this project that we have worked on, we have uncovered that across CPE institutions, there's a little over 250,000 learners who stopped out just from 2013 to 2023. And then there's approximately 45,000 learners who stopped out and have some sort of a hold due to a balance. And like I said, that can affect accessing your transcript, but there are very, very new federal regulations related to that, which we're going to move into discussing next. And I'm going to turn it over to Tony Ann for that part.
Thanks, Jonathan. So now we're going to discuss the most recent federal regulation and some of the opportunities and challenges around that. Next slide, please. So effective July 1st of this year, the Department of Education announced a new regulation that limits the practice of withholding official transcripts for the terms in which students received federal aid and paid in full. And this is a new regulation that state and institutional lawyers will need to interpret. And as we see it, this regulation also helps address one component that prevents students from furthering their education goals or proving their educational achievements by allowing them to access the transcript for those terms. However, there are still challenges to re-enrollment that still remain, particularly because, if students have access to transcripts, but the re-enrollment process for their former institution is too difficult, they may go elsewhere. Next slide. So in today's presentation and discussion, we'll get into some of those challenges and solutions that can be implemented and scaled up. And we kind of see the opportunities spanning across 3 stages in the adult re-enrollment process. So the first is around identifying stopped out students with holes, which can take a lot of coordination across different offices. So for example, enrollment information, usually that's housed within the registrar, while any information about outstanding balances might live with the business office. And then after identifying these students, institutions really need the right infrastructure to help enable enrollment for them. So many students will still have past due balances and registration holes. And also making sure that there are administrators who are equipped to address any application and enrollment questions that students might have is very key. And lastly, when students are kind of through the door, they need to be supported through graduation. And this can look like offering class times and modalities that might fit their lives. But it can also mean connecting students to financial resources and other campus or community resources to provide more holistic support. And in this presentation, we'll use our research to kind of expand on some of these different opportunities. Next slide. So now I'll pass it over to my colleague to discuss some of the challenges and solutions around past due balances.
Thanks, Tony. So this is the section of our presentation where we'll start sharing some of the key takeaways we got from our conversations with folks at Kentucky institutions. As Jonathan noted, we've broken those key takeaways into 3 different buckets: past due balances, administrative holds, and holistic student supports. We'll start, as Tony mentioned, by discussing the challenge and solutions around past due balances. Before we jump, we can go to the next slide. Before we jump into the key takeaways from those conversations specifically, we thought it might be helpful to offer some context about the scope of the problem. So the bar graph that you see on your screen shows the estimated number of students who could not access their transcripts due to transcript holds and the total dollars outstanding at public 4-year institutions across the country. And this is based on an analysis by Ithaca S&R in 2020. And the box in the center of the graph, we've aggregated the data for 2- and 4-year institutions. It should be noted that practices around transcript holds have changed since we did this research in 2020. So the Kentucky Community and Technical College system institutions stopped holding transcripts in 2023, and now many more students will have access to their transcripts following the new regulations that Tony mentioned previously. With all that being said, approximately 73,000 students in Kentucky were estimated to have stranded credits, meaning they had stopped out and could not access their transcripts due to an unpaid balance. Collectively, they owed over $120 million to institutions. If you want to think about that on the student level, this is an average balance of just under $3,000 per 4-year student and $500 per 2-year student. We can go to the next slide. Now moving into some of the challenges that came up during our conversations around past due balances. What we heard is that each institution is already working really hard to communicate with students before and after accounts are past due. This requires a lot of capacity and the right technological infrastructure to identify and automate messages or substantial staff time. This can be further complicated by changes to students' email, phone, and mailing addresses. It poses additional challenges around trying to contact students and offer them support in resolving their past due balances. Another challenge is limited flexibility without consistent balance forgiveness or management processes. Institutions are limited in what they can do to support students and dealing with their past due balances. One institution that we talked to described having to manually review accounts for each student interested in returning, often for very low balances. And as you can imagine, that takes quite a bit of capacity and time. This is further complicated once you introduce collections into the process, because this adds some additional considerations. Debts and collections can be harder to manage if the student wants to return, because institutions aren't always able to get those debts back from collections. Additionally, things can get sent to collections fairly quickly. From our administrative data, we learned accounts are sent to collections typically when there is a balance of $100 or more, and accounts can be sent to collection after 3 months and all the way up to 18 months. Overall, finances were cited as the most common reason stopped-out students were unable to return to institutions. And we heard during those conversations that for students with unpaid balances that could be considered relatively small, so $100 to $1,000 could still be very prohibitive for students trying to return. Next slide. With all that being said, some potential solutions did come out of those conversations as well around past due balances. So one, proactive outreach to keep students on track. Murray State reviews accounts throughout the semester and make sure that students are called or emailed with tailored instructions to make sure their accounts are dealt with appropriately. Additionally, outreach for return is really important. A good example of this is at the University of Kentucky's Student Success and Provost offices. They coordinate on individual outreach to students to help them re-enroll once they need to stop out. Another really important solution is being able to offer some kind of flexibility for past due balances. A couple of examples of this include the hold agreement forms at Morehead State University, which gives students more time to pay off past due balances once they've been applied to their accounts. And the Community and Technical College system has past due payment plans that help students navigate that process. Finally, it's really important to offer some avenues for balance relief. So the University of Louisville has started the Combat Cards program for returning students, and this allows them to earn $500 or $1,000 toward account balances during each semester of return. And the Hazard Community and Technical College offers balance relief for returning students through the Forge Your Way Forward Student Debt Relief Program. Moving to the challenges and solutions that came up around administrative holds. Starting first, again, with challenges. When we talk about administrative holds, we really focus on the two most common administrative holds related to unpaid balances that we found, and that's transcript holds and registration holds. Transcript holds have historically been the most common hold for stopped out students, but this will likely change with a new federal regulation that Tony discussed earlier. From our administrative data collection, we learned that 8 of the 9 institutions have transcript holds for past due balances, and this can be for fairly low amounts from a previous semester. However, most schools do have a policy in place for releasing transcripts for military and employment reasons. When thinking about registration holds, they are also a common hold for students who have stopped out. From our administrative data collection here, we learned that registration holds often have higher balance thresholds than transcript holds, but those thresholds can vary from 1 cent all the way up to $2,000. Thinking about all holds together, the challenges that came up for us came up on both the staff and student side during our conversations with folks at Kentucky institutions. So administrative holds require substantial staff time, knowledge, and coordination, so it takes a lot of capacity. And students also face confusion in knowing if they even have a hold and how to take the necessary steps to resolve their holds. Who do they go to help them do that and navigate that process? Without the right infrastructure in place to address holds, students and staff will likely face frustration when students are interested in trying to return. Next slide. Again, moving to the potential solutions and not just focusing on challenges. One of the key solutions that came up for us is streamlining information about holds to make the resolution process simpler for both students and staff. Western Kentucky University performed a hold audit where they worked with their IT department to understand and streamline over 200 different holds that could affect students. And throughout that process, they made sure that the holds that stayed on the book remained relevant for the current state of the institution so that they were easily navigated. They also ensured that every hold a student saw had a phone number to help students take the next step, and they knew who to contact to help them take that next step. Another solution is making sure that you have a staff member or office dedicated to understanding the administrative holds returning students encounter. This can make a really big difference. Similarly, coordinating between the student-facing offices, and the offices that can actually remove holds is also key in making sure that students can successfully navigate this process. Two examples of this centralization and coordination that came up during our conversations is one, at the University of Louisville, the Adult Services Office works directly with the bursar to get holds removed for students held by that office. This makes it more efficient and simpler to move through the hold process, and holds can be resolved in as little as a day through this process. EKU also has the Bake East Central, which is a one-stop shop that helps coordinate across offices. That was a lot of information. I hope I didn't move too fast. I just want to make sure we have time for discussion. With that being said, I will pass the mic to Joanna.
Great. Thank you so much, Christy. And I also want to say thank you to Maggie for sharing your institution solutions in the chat. We're still very interested in hearing if there's anything else that folks are doing that align with this. Collecting as many best practices as we can is going to be really helpful for our project. So thank you for sharing. Thinking about moving from students addressing unpaid balances, addressing their holds. So now if students are able to start their journey of re-enrollment, how can institutions best support those students to make sure that they get to the finish line and are supported as they do so? So holistic student support. There are a number of challenges that students encounter as they're re-enrolling at their institutions. One aspect of that is that institutions are often built for students who can participate in an on-campus or in-person experience. And this in-person experience predominance can make things particularly challenging for rural students. That's something that came up in a number of our interviews. Additionally, adult students bring credits from multiple sources, and the way that those credits articulate to transfer over and count towards their total number of credits, and then also how they apply to the degrees that they're interested in, can be a challenge for students as well as for staff members in doing that kind of work and making sure that credits are mapping appropriately. One other thing related to this that we heard in our interviews is the issue of credit for prior learning. And one school told us that they were very worried about competition from large online institutions that translated credits and did credit for prior learning very efficiently. Basic needs are another aspect that adult students are facing, just like our students who are coming from more traditional backgrounds. Unmet basic needs interfere with their ability to continue their education, including transportation and childcare. And finally, financial needs affect students with and without prior balances. So as one person explained to us, they do a needs assessment twice a year on their current transfer and adult populations. And the number one barrier that shows up is financial. And that's for all students. So students who are entering with an unpaid balance or students who are re-entering without that unpaid balance, financial needs affect all of those students. So what are some solutions to address these challenges? Campuses can become more welcoming to adult students when information is accessible, information on how to apply, what their degree options are, what financial aid options are available to them. So one way to make sure that this accessible information is there is through an online landing page that students can easily access, as well as knowing who on campus students can reach out to have discussions or have questions answered. One aspect around kind of campus culture that came up in our interviews was at the University of Louisville, where there is an adult learning advisory board that works to try and inform the institution's approach to supporting adult students. Additionally, we heard that Eastern Kentucky University has an adult and transfer center. Kentucky State University has a Center for Adult Learning. And Murray State also has a dedicated office, the Center for Adult and Regional Education. Course flexibility, including online courses and accommodating credit for prior learning, can better accommodate adult learners' experiences and lives. And we heard from KCTCS that they are working to improve schedules and online learning while also creating a creative marketing and communication approach to make sure that online learning is something that the right student populations are aware of. And finally, returning student and completion scholarships can help students meet their goals and address that financial needs that we talked about earlier. So 2 examples of finishing scholarships, Northern Kentucky University has a returning student scholarship, and Murray State has the Racers Finish Adult Degree Completion Program and Scholarship. So as Christy said, we covered a lot in our presentation so far, going from meeting this population of students to thinking through the new federal regulations and then addressing the barriers of past due balances, holds, and holistic student support. So before we turn it over into a breakout room to discuss how some of these solutions might be relevant to your campuses, I just want to highlight 5 high impact opportunities that come from what we've discussed so far. So 1 would be proactive coordination to audit holds and streamline the resolution process. And this can aid administrative work and facilitate outreach to stopped-out students. Something that Tony Ann mentioned earlier on is that oftentimes information on who has actually left the university and what holds those students have or whether they have unpaid balances might not all live within the same system. And this is definitely something we've learned in our research. So finding ways to pull that information together to understand who these students are at your institution and what resources they need is a great first step. Second, flexibility in funding can allow students with past due balances to return. So whether that is a payment plan or an opportunity for students to have debt forgiven or debt relief as they return, this can make a big impact on students' ability to manage their debt and return. And you might find that the new tuition revenue from students re-enrolling actually outweighs any balance relief that might be lost in unpaid collections. Next, adult learner liaisons and offices, as well as one-stops, can assist students from readmission to graduation, that idea of collaboration and coordination across offices. Resources or partnerships with community services to address housing, transportation, child, elder care, and financial needs can help address the holistic support. And finally, online accelerated or night classes and services can offer more flexibility to adult students to help them achieve their goals. So that's everything that we have. And now we're really excited to hear from you all in some breakout rooms. We've streamlined this into 2 questions to think about, but we're really interested in hearing how the conversations evolve. But first would be, what is one solution that you would like to see implemented or scaled up at your institution? So maybe this is something you are already doing at some level, but it could be grown, or something new that you heard here that you'd like to see happen. And then what challenges might come up as that solution is implemented or scaled up. So thank you very much for your time, and I'll pause here and let Dallas facilitate us into our breakout rooms.
All right. Wow. Great information. I have a page full of notes and questions for you guys. So I think the chats are going to, or the breakout rooms are going to be very active and a lot of discussion. So I'm looking forward to hearing what our teams have to say about that. And in doing that, I'm going to stop your sharing and start our sharing. Give me just a second. There we go. I think there's going to be a very rich discussion from this. And with that in mind, if you get done early with your breakout group, let's come back, because, you know, really, I think we're going to have questions asked you guys, because the research that you've done has just laid a great foundation, and you've seen who's doing what. So that's fantastic. Here are questions. What have you seen? What are you thinking that might work at your institution? What are the difficulties that you think might be out there for you to implement this at your institution? And what value does this bring? I'm going to shorten this just a little bit. I'm going to make it 10 minutes. We're right on time. But I think there's going to be some good questions afterwards that need to be answered from the groups too. So just kind of brainstorm through what you think these things are, where you might be able to bring a value and how you're doing it at your institution. The breakout groups are going to be random. So know that there's no rhyme or reason to how you jump into a room. It's going to put you into a room, and we will go there. So let me add a couple of rooms here, and let's see if this works. So we have 22 people, and you know what, Lily, I'm having a challenge with doing the sending folks to the room. Can you help me out?
Let's see.
Normally it comes up
The
and asks.
host for this meeting is using an older version of the Zoom meetings client and can't adjust the settings while the rooms are open. So you might need to close the rooms down, and then I might need to do it.
Let me do that. And I've just closed.
All right, let me try again. It's saying assign though, and I would like to randomly allow pictures. Okay, I'm going to do this. Automatically move all. Okay. Let's do that.
Okay.
Maybe not. I'll try one more time, friends. Thank you for your patience. Why is this?
Yes, exactly. That's how I feel about it too.
I mean,
Why?
I click. Who's a Zoom expert here? Because I clicked automatically move all assigned participants into breakout rooms. Do I have to assign them? Allow participants to choose a room. But I think that means that you all have to like kind of balance it out. Why can't they be randomly assigned?
Right.
Who's a wizard here? Let's see. Joanna, I'm making you a co-host. If I can.
Lily,
It won't-
I can't see this is Liz. I can't see your view, but is it possible maybe you need to like select all of the people first?
Select all the people in the participants.
Is there a place to click on people to include in the groups?
You know what? I'll just move people. It's fine.
Okay.
1,
Thank
2,
you.
3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to start putting people in room 2 now.
So as she's doing that,
I'm going to put people in room 3 now. Okay, I moved everybody that I saw.
okay, thank you.
Well, if it doesn't work, you just have to like hack into it, I guess. I don't
Right.
know. Does
Yeah.
everybody know what they're supposed to be doing in the breakout rooms? Because you could
They
send a
do.
broadcast message. Okay. That wasn't too bad. Get out of here. That was weird. I don't know if we're using an outdated Zoom or what, but like it wouldn't say randomly assigned to the rooms.
Right. That was peculiar. And we are still recording, so
Oh, maybe we should stop. You can pause the recording.
Yeah, I'm going down to do that. Gonna unpause our recording. So good to have everybody back. I think we have everybody back. Okay, down to 19 seconds and everybody's starting to come back now. Great. Okay, great discussion, folks. If you could share some of the things you talked about in your groups, that would be great. Just someone from the group turn on their mic and share. Group one.
I'm not sure if I was group one, but I can start us
Mark
off.
down.
So my group had a lot of interesting things to say about potential solutions and what solutions made the most sense. So we talked a little bit about intentional outreach and how, like we said in our presentation, there needs to be a more holistic approach to outreach and advising to make sure that stopped out students can return and be successful. The advising piece is really key to make sure that anything that has happened in life, their new responsibilities, any new needs that have popped up for them are integrated into their plan for educational success. And we also talked a little bit about the transition between K through 12 to college and trying to integrate financial literacy into that transition so that students can understand the gravity of the financial responsibility they're taking on and how to navigate that successfully. I think I captured everything in my group, but I should say that we had someone from one of the institutions we mentioned in our presentation that noted that the one-stop shop framework is really helpful in streamlining the process for students and staff.
Great, great.
If my group wants to chime in and I missed anything, please feel free.
Good job, Christy.
Thank you.
So Peg, I'm going to ask group three to go next because that was the last group that I was in, and you were talking about the landing page. Can you share on that a little bit?
Of course, thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm from Northern Kentucky University, and one of the things that we really are working toward is getting a landing page for students who wish to return, so they have one easy way to learn more about what NKU has to offer, how to get started, who to contact. And we also talked about how important it is to keep that page current, up to date, make sure that that anyone who is involved in responding to those students, that there's a succession plan should that person leave or move into a different role, as we all know happens. And then we were also talking in our group about how important coordination is. All of our areas, all of our universities do have resources and support for returning students. It's a matter of the coordination and making sure we're all communicating effectively with one another as we work with those students.
Great. Yeah, I think that landing page is so important because the adult population, sometimes they feel like imposter syndrome when they're in that going to the university. And when we address them particularly, that just brings them into our community. It gives them the idea that, yeah, I really am, I do belong here. So the landing page, I look forward to seeing what you guys are going to do with that. All right. Well, lots of stuff to share. So as we move forward, please go out to the exchange, the Impact Exchange, and drop comments in there on the things that you're doing well. One of the other things that I heard was the Student Success Barrier Survey at KCTCS, and Maggie, I think you were talking about that. What a great tool. You know, if that's something you guys can share, put it in the Impact Exchange under this link for the videos or for the webinar, and we can share that with one another. So share your ideas, share your resources, and let's work together to improve for all. Because, you know, one of the things that I heard, and I think this was you, Geneva, is the fact that helping people feel comfortable being here. You came from the K-12 area, and being new in this, that's one of the things that you've seen. So we need to help one another. Joanna, you made a comment about CPL, and one of our missions here at CPE is to help our colleges and universities to improve, refine, enhance their recognition of credit for prior learning, which are key to our adult learner population. All right, so we still have just a few minutes. I want to hit a couple last notes and see what else we have. And there are some conferences coming up. I'm going to be at the Post-Secondary CTE Summit in Chicago in September. If you haven't seen that, take a look at it. It could be very interesting. CTE instruction is an area that we can bring a lot of adult learners into to help us. So we want to engage that. We also have the adult learner convening that will be sponsored by CPE in October. Please put that on your calendar. There will be a registration forthcoming. Be part of that. And the October 30th CALE conference, lots going on there. They're going to be highlighting this year because it's their 50th anniversary of doing things that are related to credit for prior learning, workforce engagement, so great opportunities. And if you don't have the Impact Exchange link readily available, there it is at the bottom of the page. So jump out there, share information, and help one another. So the next thing we want to do is to give you a chance to talk about what's going on in your world. So open discussion. What would you like to share about your campus that you've not had a chance to share yet? Maggie, can I tag you to make a quick comment about your student success barrier survey, since that was just in your group?
Absolutely. So we have one thing that we're going to start doing. We hadn't really utilized it in the spring semester. So we've started pulling the list weekly. Excuse me. We've started pulling the list weekly, and I send that on to whichever resources I feel like would be helpful. So one of the questions is students have concerns about transportation. So we send a mass message to those students with different resources at their campus or in their county. If they list that they're a single student, we get them connected with our Ready to Work program. And then if they need help with technology, we connect them with IT and our success coaches and with the Blackboard orientation. So yeah, those are just some of the things we've been doing. And we're really excited because I feel like it's been helpful and we do get responses from students, which is always exciting.
Yes. Others? Or if you have questions for the Ithaca team, what did they have to say that caught your interest and you'd like to know more about? Well, I know it was a lot. Go ahead.
Hi. You know, I'm really glad that student basic needs came up, you know, as a barrier. And I know that there's a lot of discussion about how we can better support all of our students who have unmet needs. One thing we are doing at NKU, we've been doing it for a couple of years and it keeps improving. But we have the Northern Kentucky Community Action representative come twice a month. And they're available to meet with students on campus or just to provide information. They set up at the food pantry that we have. And then this year we have a much better process for being able to help students make appointments with someone. We have an actual link for NKU students alone that won't, the public can't make appointments through that link. So we're going to be able to guide students to that link or actually help them make those appointments. And I think that that could be a really, big step in the right direction if we can make sure that our adult students are fully aware of that and can seek those resources.
Great. Thank you for sharing. All right, we've heard a lot of information today. So as you're mulling over what you've heard, please jump out there, drop it in our discussion board, and we'll try to answer those questions for you or share the information with others. We're coming up on time, so lots of good information today. Thank you, Ithaca team, for joining us today and sharing your research and what you found. I'm just pleasantly surprised, amazed at how much is going on. When you have a group like Ithaca come in and do this evaluation, you get to see a very broad swath of information that we might see individually at times, but when you hear all of it coming together and how everyone's working in this direction, it's really exciting. We've got a lot of really good stuff going on here in Kentucky, and I'm excited to see how we're going to continue to serve our community, our adult learners, and grow our workforce capacity in the state. So great stuff. Our next meeting is scheduled for September 4th. Our discussion is pending. We're not exactly sure where we're going to go. So this is where I need your help. Share with us what you're interested in this group that focus on adult learners. What do we need to discuss, or what would you like to discuss with the group? Send me an email, let me know. Lily and I will look through that and see what we can do. If you're not sure, maybe you have an idea, give us a call. We'll talk through it and see what we can do. But in that, it is all about sharing what we're doing, where we are, so that we can improve the entire Commonwealth and the educational opportunities. So thank you all. Lily, any final comments, parting comments? Okay.
Oh, did you announce the adult learner convening? Save the date?
Yep.
Okay, great.
We had that on the conference slides. And as soon as we get that registration form set up, we'll send it out to everybody and encourage you to be there. As a matter of fact, let me take just a moment and talk about what I get to share at the convening. I am looking forward to talking about credit for prior learning. That is my wheelhouse. I'm very passionate about it. And we're going to talk about a way that we can, from CPE, come to you and look at what you're doing, give you some ideas, take away some ideas from you on what we can share with others as we continue to grow out the capacity to recognize that workplace learning. You guys have got some great things going on out there. I want to share it around to everyone. And then we're also going to be talking about Collegiate Purple Star and what that is and how we might be able to do something here in Kentucky along that very same line. Lee, I think you're still on. Is there anything that you would like to say before we
No, I just appreciate all of you for joining us. And obviously at CPE, we are deeply interested in this topic and how we can serve adults in the state more effectively. So thank you for continuing this conversation with us, and look forward to the next meeting.
All right. Well, thank you all. Thank you, Lee. Thank you, Lily, for helping out. And we're going to give you guys a whole 2 minutes back for you today. Take care.
Bye, everyone.